Hey, what's up guys? How's everyone doing today? Well, if you're Diddy Combs, you've got Mark Agnifilo out here windmilling in the halls of justice, trying to get you off the hook. But, honestly, what's up next on the docket? Diddy, you're wasting your time, and you need to concentrate on your defense because according to Tony Rico, the lawyer who just dropped you, there may be real RICO charges and conspiracy charges coming your way for both you and your lawyer. At this point, you might want to focus on your May 5th trial date because right now, it's looking like you're unprepared. So, what's Diddy's latest antic? Well, Diddy is now trying to get all the evidence seized in the raid excluded from the trial. He's claiming that the government already had the so-called freak-off tapes. If they already had the tapes, why even seize anything else? Why would you need to get that evidence excluded? If they've already got the tapes, what's the point? Why even question the rest of the evidence they seized? This just doesn't make any sense. Let's dive into this because, honestly, Mark Agnifilo seems to be bleeding Diddy dry. Everything that Mark has tried has either failed or backfired. The one time they caught a little break was when the judge ruled that the notes seized from Diddy's sale had to be excluded because the prosecutors took privileged legal documents. That seemed like a victory at the time, but it quickly fell apart. The feds came back and said Diddy was lying, and we learned that he wasn't being truthful. Mark Agnifilo had to stand before the judge and admit his mistake. The judge, not happy about the situation, basically tore into Mark, saying something like, "Don't you ever bring that BS into my courtroom again." Since then, everything Mark has attempted has been rejected or has blown up in their face. The legal motions have been a total waste of time, money, and resources. Let's not forget, Diddy is reportedly paying $180,000 a week to cover his legal expenses. These motions are only adding to his mounting bills. But does Mark Agnifilo even care? Lawyers, no matter how great they are, lose cases all the time. It's just part of the job. However, it seems Mark is getting generational wealth from Diddy every time he keeps moving forward with these motions. Is that really the goal here? Now let's talk about Diddy's latest nonsensical attempt to waste time and money in court. Diddy is trying to get the government's search warrants tossed out, arguing that federal agents misled the court when seeking the warrants. He's claiming the government had key evidence, including what his attorneys have dubbed the freak-off tapes. These tapes allegedly show that the victims were willing participants, which, to be honest, is a pretty dirtbag defense. The comparison to adult entertainment websites like Pornhub, a popular adult content site, comes to mind because they've been sued for showing non-consensual content, despite how consensual it might look. If someone says something isn't consensual, it's not, no matter how much they might have smiled or seemed to enjoy it. The law is clear: once something becomes non-consensual, it's no longer a consensual act. In the latest legal drama, Diddy's attorneys claim that the government sought warrants to search his homes, his electronic devices, and even his hotel room. They say the warrants presented a grossly distorted picture of the facts. Specifically, Diddy's legal team argues that the agents had crucial evidence that could undermine the government's case, including text messages between alleged victims and the hip-hop mogul. They're essentially saying that the government is presenting a misleading and selective account of what really happened. Here's the thing: even if the victims were initially consensual, once it turns non-consensual, it doesn't matter what the situation was before. Whether you agreed to something in the past doesn't mean you consent to it the next time. Consent is fluid, and it can change at any moment. If Diddy is going to use the defense that because some tapes look consensual, they must have been consensual, that's a huge issue. Diddy's attorney also argues that the warrants used to seize his digital devices and even his hotel room were overly broad and unconstitutional. They're calling out the feds for allegedly admitting exculpatory evidence that could have helped Diddy's case, which the government didn't include. The legal team says the warrants misrepresented the facts and left out important details, which could have given a different perspective on the case. They claim this was a systematic attempt to mislead the court, presenting a biased narrative. At this point, Diddy's legal team is pushing for a Franks hearing, which is a legal process to determine if the government misled the judge when obtaining the search warrants. Diddy's team argues that the probable cause statements in the warrants were intentionally misleading and that the authorities leaked damaging information about Diddy before executing the raids on his properties. But let's be real, past court hearings have already shown that the authorities didn't leak anything. They had every right to share information from an ongoing investigation with the public. The only information they couldn't share is classified info, and nothing here qualifies as classified. One of the key points in Diddy's defense revolves around the freak-off tapes, which he claims were in federal custody before the agents raided his homes. He argues these tapes should have been disclosed earlier. The government's allegations, he says, are based largely on text messages and statements taken out of context. His team claims nearly every witness against him has a financial motive to fabricate or exaggerate their stories. Mark Agnifilo seems to be pushing this narrative, but it raises an eyebrow. Does Diddy really have a financial motive to fabricate or embellish a story? Diddy's legal team is calling out the government for cherry-picking evidence to fit its narrative. They argue that the evidence was misleading, selective, and taken out of context. Meanwhile, the government says Diddy engaged in witness tampering, using inmate phone privileges and social media to sway public opinion. They also claim he attempted to pay off witnesses to change their testimony. If this is true, it would be a serious issue for Diddy's case. Diddy's legal team, however, insists that the government only presented a skewed version of the evidence, claiming that key facts were omitted to make their case against Diddy look stronger. Now, let's talk about the impact all of this has on Diddy's future. The judge is expected to rule on whether the search warrants will be thrown out. But honestly, the bar for the government to get a search warrant is pretty low. They don't need a ton of evidence to justify it. So, it's unlikely that the judge will throw out the evidence that was seized in the raids. But who knows? At the end of the day, this is all costing Diddy money, and he's already paying out a ton in legal fees. Diddy has been fighting to clear his name, but with every passing day, it's looking more and more like his legal team is only wasting his time and money. If this continues, Diddy might end up with nothing left but a massive legal bill and a tarnished reputation. Meanwhile, Mark Agnifilo continues to collect his fees, no matter what happens. So, what do you think? Do you believe Diddy is guilty of the charges? Or is he just a victim of a smear campaign? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch y'all later.